So I was on Twitter today and I saw Chicago's mayor, Lori Lightfoot, talking about how they were going to cut crime in Little Village. If you're familiar with Little Village in Chicago, it is one of those places in Chicago that when you go to Chicago, one of the places you avoid used to be the Jets. Those are for you non-Chicagoans, that's called the projects. You avoided the Jets, right? In Chicago is Little Village. In Milwaukee, you would call that neighborhood like you call some places Little Beirut. Stuff like that. But then it struck me when she said at the end, we're going to go cashless. See, if you don't have cash, people can't rob you. And I thought, doesn't crime evolve the same way everything else evolved? Didn't we start robbing people and carjacking people as they were getting in their cars? And now when they start carjacking people, getting in their cars, people just walk away and you found out that you couldn't start the car because you didn't have a key fob. So now most cars have key fobs and they don't have keys, so you can't open the doors and do all those things. And if your battery goes out, well, you're kind of done anyway. But key fob, evolution. Now we rob people and take their phone. And if it's a woman, their purse. And if it's a guy, their keys, because they know that's where the key fob is. And that's all great. And so I started doing some research. I started looking at what can happen if we go cashless. Now, I know, Sandra, I know you're going to call, so you may as well start calling. 833-212-1017 is the number. Black Conscience, I know you're going to call. And a few other people are going to start calling. Why? Because if we go cashless, there are so many things that can go wrong with that, especially in our community. But I want to know what you think about it. 833-212-1017 is the number. Cash allows you to be anonymous. Cash, when you read it, it says it's legal tender for all debts, public, the government, or private, individuals. Well, recently the government started talking about charging you for apps. We already charge for online, right? So if you buy something online, they now have to charge you tax. And if you buy or sell more than $600 in a particular state or county, you have to actually file for another license in that state to sell stuff. Just more ways of making money. Why? Because it's electronic. Yes, today is January 20th, Friday. It's Pop-Off Friday. Because I'm looking at this and I'm thinking to myself, if I'm poor, do I have access to cashless? Well, number one, yes, I do. It's an app on your phone. Regardless of what people may think, poor people actually have smartphones. Smartphones are cheap enough to be able to own them. The problem is now you know not only where I go, but what money I have with me, how much money I have. Do you realize that if your credit card is tracked to your phone, and it only works where you are. In other words, if your phone isn't in the same place as your credit card, it won't work if it's set up that way, if you travel. But if you get robbed, you just turn everything off. Well, you do know the thing that we use to turn everything off is what? Your phone. And if I steal your phone and your key fob, I've effectively blinded you in the world. The flip to that is if I want to disappear, I get rid of my phone and my key fob. But what about the poor? What about when I decide, hey, you know what? We're going to regulate how much money you get out of your account because we don't think you're able to, spend it wisely. You can't spend it the way that we want you to spend it. What was it they did in New York? The big gulp. We need to outlaw the 20-ounce big gulp cup or the 32-ounce because we don't think you're worthy enough. I think they did that under the Obama administration. They wanted to get rid of cups, big gulp, because we want people to eat right. So we're going to force you to not be able to buy certain things. Sort of like get rid of gas stoves. Been using them for over 100 years now. All of a sudden, we're going to get rid of gas stoves. Oh, okay. To go to electric with a power grid that's faulty, and if it goes out, we don't have anything we can't eat. We can't. Okay. Which leads me to, will a cashless society discriminate against the poor and the elderly? Those are the two groups of people that can't make cashless payments, that can't get access, that may not have Wi-Fi, that literally will not be able to pay their bills. But then it made me think, who gets control of your life? I'm elderly and I'm poor. You have control over my money, control over who I talk to, control over who I text, control over my entire life. Next thing we know, you'll control my credit rating. Oh, by the way, Zach, your credit rating isn't high enough, so you can't hold this job. What? Hey, Dr. Ken, your credit rating is too high. You can't hold this job. Like, where will it end? Hey, Zach, your credit rating is high enough. Would you like a car? We'll start selling that too. But it is one thing that I did find out that was probably more important than anything, that in doing all this research and data, and if you have a question about it, 833-212-1017, will a cashless society discriminate against Black people? 833-212-1017 is the number, because evidently cash ain't king.
And that is Dr. Ken's Truth on the new 1017 The Truth.
Truth Nation, it is Denise Thomas, the Effective Communication